The steam from the shower hit her face first, then she saw him. Kang Min-ho stood frozen under cascading water-ink black tattoos snaking across his chest and shoulders, every muscle carved like he'd been built for violence. Their eyes locked. For 3 seconds that stretched into eternity, neither moved. Then his hand shot out, not for a weapon, but gripping the glass door between them like he was holding himself back from something he couldn't name. Amara's breath caught. She'd walked into the wrong bathroom in the wrong penthouse belonging to the wrong man, and now something dangerous and inevitable had just awakened in both of them. Welcome to Story World, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. Amara couldn't move. Her cleaning cart sat abandoned in the hallway, supplies rattling as her heart hammered against her ribs. She'd been working for elite estates for 6 months, cleaning penthouses for Seoul's wealthiest, and she'd never made a mistake like this. The service elevator had opened on the 42nd floor, same as always. Same marble floors, same gold-numbered doors. Except she'd turned left instead of right, and now she stood in Kang Min-ho's bathroom watching water stream down a body that looked like it had survived wars. He shut off the water with deliberate slowness, his dark eyes never leaving hers. Steam curled between them. Amara's mouth went dry. She should apologize, should run, should do anything except stand there memorizing the way ink dragons coiled around his ribs. "I'm so sorry," she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought this was 42B, I didn't mean to." "What's your name?" His voice was deep, accented, dangerous in its calmness. Amara Williams. I clean for elite estates. She gestured toward the door, desperate to escape. "Stay," one word, a command dressed up as a request. Her feet refused to obey her brain's screaming orders to leave. Min-ho wrapped a black towel around his waist, water still dripping from his hair, and stepped out of the shower. He moved like a predator, controlled and purposeful. Up close, she could see the scar along his collarbone, the smaller marks scattered across his knuckles. "You're afraid of me," he observed, studying her face like he was reading a language only he understood. "I'm afraid of losing my job." The truth came out sharper than she intended. "Your building manager will fire me if he finds out I walked into the wrong apartment." Something flickered across Min-ho's expression, not anger, something softer, almost protective. "He won't find out." He reached past her, his arm brushing hers, and she sucked in a breath at the contact. He grabbed a robe from the hook behind the door. "Wait in the living room." It wasn't a suggestion. The living room looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Seoul that made the city look like scattered diamonds. Everything was black, white, and chrome. Cold, expensive, untouchable, just like the man who owned it. Amara stood near the door, her uniform suddenly feeling too tight, too cheap, too everything. She was a curvy black woman in a city that already made her stand out, and now she was standing in a Mafia boss's penthouse because everyone at elite estates whispered about who Kang Min-ho really was. Not just a businessman, not just wealthy, dangerous. He emerged from the bedroom dressed in black slacks and a white dress shirt he hadn't bothered buttoning. Her eyes traced the tattoos visible beneath the fabric before she could stop herself. "Coffee or tea?" he asked. Moving toward the kitchen like this was normal, like she hadn't just seen him naked, like her entire world hadn't tilted sideways. "I should really go." "You didn't answer my question." He started an espresso machine that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. "I don't understand what's happening right now." Amara's hands twisted together. "I invaded your privacy, I should be fired or worse, and you're offering me coffee." Min-ho turned, leaning against the counter with an expression she couldn't read. "What's worse than being fired?" She didn't answer. They both knew what worse looked like in his world. "Coffee," he said again, this time softer. "Black, no sugar, I can tell." "How?" "You take nothing you don't need. It's in the way you stand, the way you looked at this apartment. You're not impressed by excess." He poured 2 cups with the precision of someone who'd perfected the ritual. "Most people who come here can't stop staring at what I own. You looked at the view." He was right, she had. The next morning, Amara reported to work expecting termination papers. Instead, her supervisor handed her a new assignment. "You've been requested for a private contract. Same building, same floor, but exclusive to one unit. The pay is triple your current rate. Which unit? But she already knew. 42A Kang Min-ho's penthouse. He wants you specifically, 5 days a week morning shifts. Her supervisor's expression was carefully neutral. This is a career opportunity, Amara. Don't mess it up. She wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed that accepting meant stepping into something she wouldn't be able to walk away from. But triple pay meant she could send more money home to her mother in Atlanta, could finally save enough to maybe, possibly, eventually stop cleaning other people's homes. I'll take it, she heard herself say. That afternoon, she stood outside 42A with her cleaning supplies and a racing heart. The door opened before she could knock. Min-ho stood there in a charcoal suit that probably cost what she made in 3 months, looking at her like he'd been waiting. You came. Something in his voice suggested he'd wondered if she would. You're paying me triple rate. Of course I came. A slight smile touched his lips. Honest, I like that. He stepped aside. The bedroom and office are off limits. Everything else is yours. For 2 weeks, Amara cleaned Min-ho's penthouse while he worked from his home office or disappeared for hours to meetings she didn't ask about. They developed a careful dance. She'd arrive at 8. He'd have coffee ready, made exactly how she took it even though she'd never told him. She'd clean while he made phone calls in Korean, his voice shifting between smooth business tones and something sharper, more dangerous. He watched her. She felt his eyes tracking her movements when he thought she wasn't paying attention. Not creepy, not predatory, just intensely focused, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. One morning, she found an envelope on the kitchen counter with her name written in sharp, precise handwriting. Inside was a check for double her agreed rate and a note. For the vase! I know you saw it. She had seen it. A vintage crystal vase she'd knocked with her elbow while dusting. Catching it before it fell, but watching a hairline crack spider across the base. She'd positioned it so the crack didn't show, planning to confess and offer to pay for it in installments. He'd noticed anyway. That evening, she stayed late. Min-ho emerged from his office around 7, loosening his tie when he saw her still there. You didn't have to pay for the vase, Amara said. I was going to tell you. I know you were. He moved to the bar, poured whiskey into a crystal glass. That's why I paid for it. That doesn't make sense. You're honest even when honesty costs you. That's rare. He took a slow drink, studying her over the rim. Most people in my world would have said nothing and let me discover it myself. I'm not in your world. No, he agreed quietly. You're not. The silence stretched. Amara should have left. Instead, she asked the question that had been burning in her chest for 2 weeks. Why did you hire me, really? Min-ho set down his glass with careful precision. Because when you looked at me in that bathroom, you weren't afraid of what I could do to you. You were afraid of losing your job. Your fear was practical, not personal. He stepped closer. And because I haven't stopped thinking about you since. Her breath caught. Mr. Kang. Min-ho. That's inappropriate. So is the way I think about you every night. His voice dropped lower. So is the fact that I rearranged my entire schedule to be here when you are. So is hearing you at triple rate just to have you close. Amara's heart slammed against her ribs. This is a bad idea. I know. I could lose everything. I won't let that happen. You can't promise that. But even as she said it, she could see in his eyes that he believed he could. Men like Kang Min-ho didn't make promises they couldn't keep. By the end of the month, everything changed. Amara arrived one morning to find Min-ho's door already open, voices raised inside. She hesitated, then pushed her cart quietly into the hallway alcove, instinct telling her to stay hidden. You can't keep refusing the meetings. A man's voice, speaking English with a Korean accent. The organization expects you to. I'll handle the organization my way. Min-ho's voice was ice. Tell them I'm not interested in their arrangement. They're offering you Park Jae-won's daughter. This alliance would. I said no. A pause, then quieter, more dangerous. Is this about the cleaning girl? Amara's blood went cold. Get out! Min-ho's words were barely above a whisper, which somehow made them more terrifying. Footsteps. The door opened. A man in an expensive suit walked past without seeing her, his phone already to his ear, speaking rapid Korean. When the elevator doors closed behind him, Amara stood frozen, her mind racing. She should leave, should walk away from this job, this man, this situation that was spiraling into something she couldn't control. But when she looked up, Minho stood in his doorway, still dressed in last night's clothes, looking at her with an expression that made her chest ache. "How much did you hear?" he asked quietly. "Enough to know I'm causing problems for you." He crossed the space between them in 3 strides. "You're not a problem, you're—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "This isn't your concern. If people are talking about me, it is my concern." Minho's hand came up like he wanted to touch her face, then dropped. The restraint in that gesture said more than words could. "I'm handling it. By refusing to meet with these people, by making enemies because of your cleaning woman." Amara's voice rose. "I'm not worth that." His eyes flashed. "Don't tell me what you're worth. You barely know me." "I know enough." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I know you send most of your paycheck home to your mother who's sick. I know you're studying for your real estate license at night. I know you reorganize my books by author when you think I won't notice because the previous arrangement was chaos. I know you hum when you clean the kitchen, always the same song. I know." "Stop," her voice broke. "You can't know all that. I pay attention to what matters." The confession hung between them like a lit match near gasoline. Amara knew she should step back, should maintain professional distance, should remember that men like Kang Min-ho didn't really fall for women like her. This was fascination, not feeling. Obsession, not love. But when he looked at her she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed world. Logic didn't matter. Later that night, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "It's Min-ho." His voice sounded different on the phone, more intimate somehow. "Don't come to work tomorrow." Her stomach dropped. "Are you firing me?" "No, I'm protecting you." A pause. "The people I refuse to meet with today, they don't handle rejection well. I need you away from here until I manage the situation." "For how long?" "A week, maybe 2. His voice softened. "I'll pay you for the time." "I don't want your money if I'm not working." "Amara." The way he said her name made her close her eyes. "Let me do this, please." She'd never heard him say please before. The next week crawled by. Amara tried to focus on her real estate studies, tried to ignore the way her apartment felt too empty, tried not to check her phone every 5 minutes hopping for a message that never came. On day 9, someone knocked on her door at midnight. She checked the peephole and her heart stopped. Minho stood in her hallway looking like he'd been through hell. His shirt was untucked, hair disheveled, a fresh bruise darkening his jaw. She opened the door. "What happened?" "I need to know you're safe." He scanned her face, her apartment behind her, like he was memorizing proof of her existence. "I need to see you're okay." "I'm fine, but you're not." She pulled him inside before her neighbors could see. "Sit down. Let me get ice for your face." He caught her wrist gently. "I didn't come for ice." "Then why did you come?" Minho's eyes held hers. "Because every day you've been gone has felt like losing something I didn't know I needed to breathe." The confession shattered something in her chest. "Minho, I handled the situation. You're safe now. You can come back to work, or you can quit and I'll help you find something else. Or," he stopped, "or you can tell me if you felt even a fraction of what I've been feeling, and we can stop pretending this is just about a job." Amara's hands trembled. "If I say yes, if we do this, everything changes." "Everything already changed the moment you walked into my bathroom." He was right. She'd been lying to herself for weeks, pretending the way her heart raced around him was just nerves, pretending the way she caught herself watching him was just curiosity. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of me. Of how much I want this even though I know I shouldn't." Minho's hand came up slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and cupped her cheek. His thumb traced her bottom lip. "Tell me to leave and I will. Tell me this is just business and I'll never mention it again." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Or tell me you feel this too." Amara's answer came not in words, but in the way she leaned into his touch, in the way her eyes fluttered closed, in the soft breath that escaped when he stepped closer. "Amara." Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a curse combined. She looked up at him, I feel it too. The world tilted. Minho's other hand slid into her hair, cradling her head with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. When he kissed her, it wasn't rushed or rough. It was devastatingly slow, achingly thorough, like he was savoring something he'd been starving for. Amara's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and he made a sound low in his throat that sent heat pooling through her entire body. He walked her backward until her shoulders hit the wall, never breaking the kiss, his body pressing against hers in a way that made rational thought impossible. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her lips. "Don't you dare." His control snapped. The kiss turned hungry, desperate, months of tension finally breaking free. His hands mapped her curves like he was memorizing every inch, and she arched into his touch, wanting more, needing more. Time blurred. They moved from the wall to her couch to her bedroom, clothes disappearing between kisses and whispered confessions. When he laid her down on her bed, he paused, looking at her with an intensity that made her chest ache. "You're sure?" he asked, his voice rough. "I've never been more sure of anything." What happened next was heat and need and something deeper, something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. Minho touched her like she was precious and claimed her like she was his, and Amara gave herself over to sensation, to the feeling of being wanted this completely. Content fades. She woke to sunlight and an empty bed. The sheets beside her were cold. Minho's scent lingered on her pillow, but he was gone. Amara sat up slowly, her body aching in the best way, and spotted a note on her nightstand. "I had to handle something. I'll call you soon. M. Soon, not today, not tonight, soon." Reality crashed down. This was a mistake. She'd slept with her employer, with a man connected to organized crime, with someone whose world was violence and power and danger. What had she been thinking? She grabbed her phone. No messages, no missed calls. By evening, panic had settled into resignation. Minho was a wealthy, powerful man who'd gotten what he wanted and moved on. That's what men like him did. The romance novels lied. This wasn't a fairy tale. 3 days passed. Nothing. Amara threw herself into her real estate studies, ignored calls from her supervisor asking when she'd returned to work, and tried very hard not to cry every time she remembered the way Minho had looked at her like she was everything. On the 4th night, someone pounded on her door hard enough to rattle the frame. She checked the peephole, and her heart stopped. Minho stood there looking frantic, desperate, furious. She opened the door and he was on her immediately, hands framing her face, eyes searching hers. "Where have you been?" His voice shook. "I've been calling. I went to the penthouse. I had my people check hospitals, police stations. My phone died and I haven't charged it." The lie came easily. "I've been here studying." His jaw clenched. "For 4 days you didn't think to charge your phone." "I didn't think you'd care." The words hung between them like shattered glass. Minho's expression shifted from panic to hurt to something darker. "You thought I wouldn't care." Not a question, an accusation. "You let me inside you, let me hold you, let me—" He stopped, breathing hard. "And you thought I wouldn't care." "You left," Amara's voice broke. "I woke up alone with a note that said you'd call soon. What was I supposed to think? That I had to handle a situation that couldn't wait, that I didn't want to wake you, that I was coming back." His hands tightened on her face. "Not that I was abandoning you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Men like you don't end up with women like me. This was always going to be temporary." "Men like me," his voice went dangerously quiet. "What do you think I am?" "Dangerous, connected, powerful, everything I'm not." Minho laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think power is what makes someone dangerous. You've had me on my knees since the moment I saw you." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I left that morning because someone threatened you, used your name, your address. I had to handle it before I could come back." Her breath caught. "What?" "The people I refused to meet with, they found out about you. They thought hurting you would bring me in line." His voice turned to steel. "I made sure they'll never think that again." "What did you do?" "What I had to." He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. "And I'd do worse to keep you safe." Amara's hands trembled against his chest. "You can't go around threatening people because of me." "I didn't threaten them." Minho's expression was granite. I eliminated the threat entirely." The weight of those words settled between them. Amara knew she should be horrified, should push him away, should run from a man capable of such violence. Instead, she found herself pulling him closer, understanding on a visceral level that in his world, hesitation meant death and protection meant action. "I'm sorry I didn't charge my phone," she whispered. "I'm sorry I left without explaining." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "I'm not good at this, at being someone who has to consider how his actions affect another person." He paused. "But I want to learn with you." The confession broke something open inside her. "This is insane. We barely know each other. I know you're terrified of storms because you grew up in Atlanta, where tornado warnings meant hiding in basements. I know you bite your bottom lip when you're concentrating. I know you cry at sad commercials but pretend you don't. I know." She kissed him to stop the words, because hearing how much he'd noticed, how much he'd paid attention, was overwhelming in the best and worst way. He kissed her back with desperate relief, like a man who'd been holding his breath for days and could finally exhale. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Come back to work. Let me see you every day. Let me prove this isn't temporary." "Minho." "Please," the second time he'd ever said that word to her. "I'm not asking you to love me yet. Just give me the chance to earn it." Yet, like it was inevitable, like he'd already decided she was his future and was just waiting for her to catch up. "Okay," she whispered, "but we need rules." A slight smile touched his lips. "I'm not good with rules." "You'll learn." The next morning, Amara returned to the penthouse. Minho had coffee waiting, made exactly right, and a new phone sitting on the counter beside it. "You didn't have to buy me a phone. Your old one died. You need a working phone." He said it casually, but she saw the concern beneath. He needed to be able to reach her, to know she was safe. She picked up the phone. Top of the line, probably cost more than her monthly rent. "This is too much." "It's a phone, Amara, not a car." "Yet," she muttered. His smile was quick and genuine. "Yet." They fell into a new rhythm. She'd clean while he worked, but now there were stolen moments. His hand brushing hers when he passed, her fingers trailing across his shoulders when she walked behind his chair, heated glances across rooms, conversations that started professional and ended personal. He learned her. The way she took her coffee changed depending on her mood. When she was stressed, she cleaned in methodical patterns, starting from the left, moving right. When she was happy, she hummed, always the same song, something her mother used to sing. He started playing it softly through the apartment speakers just to watch her smile. She learned him too. He was harder to read, but she noticed things. The way his jaw clenched when certain names came up in phone calls. How he touched the scar on his collarbone when he was thinking. The fact that he only drank whiskey after difficult days, and the worse the day, the more precise he became in his movements, like control was all he had left. 2 weeks later, everything shattered. Amara was in the kitchen when the penthouse door opened. She looked up expecting Minho but froze when a woman walked in. Korean, stunning, wearing a dress that probably cost what Amara made in 6 months. "Oh," the woman's eyes swept over Amara's uniform with barely concealed disdain. "You must be the help." Something cold settled in Amara's stomach. "Can I help you?" "I'm Park Jaewon. I'm here to see Minho." She said it like she had every right to be there, like she owned the space. Before Amara could respond, Minho emerged from his office. His expression went completely blank when he saw Jaewon. "What are you doing here?" His voice was ice. Jaewon's smile was practiced perfect. "We need to talk about the proposal." "There is no proposal. I made that clear." "Your organization thinks differently." She moved closer to him, deliberately positioning herself between Minho and Amara. "Our families have been allies for generations. This marriage would." "I said no." Minho's words cut like glass. Amara's heart stopped. Marriage? They'd been talking about marriage. Jaewon's eyes flicked to Amara, then back to Minho. Understanding dawned on her face, followed by something cruel. "Oh, I see." Her laugh was delicate, mocking. "You've developed an attachment to the staff." "Leave." Minho's voice dropped to something dangerous. "Now." "Does she know what you are? What you've done?" Jaewon's smile widened. Does she know about the bodies, the blood, the empire built on fear? Amara's hands clenched. She'd known, of course she'd known, but hearing it said aloud like an accusation made it real in a way it hadn't been before. I'm calling security. Minho pulled out his phone. No need. Jaiwon gathered her purse with elegant precision. I can see I'm interrupting something. She paused at the door. But this isn't over, Minho. Your people expect you to do your duty, and duty always comes before pleasure. The door closed. Silence crashed down. Amara stared at the space where Jaiwon had stood, her mind racing. Marriage proposal. Alliance. Duty. All the words that meant Minho's world had expectations she could never meet. Amara, Minho started. Is it true? Were you supposed to marry her? The organization suggested it. I refused. When? He hesitated just a fraction too long. Before I met you. How long before? 2 months, his jaw clenched. I refused the first meeting request. They kept pushing, I kept refusing. Because of me. Because I didn't want an arranged marriage to someone I don't love for the sake of political alliance. He crossed to her. You're not the reason I said no. You're the reason I'm certain it was the right decision. Amara wrapped her arms around herself. She said your people expect you to do your duty. My people can expect whatever they want. It doesn't mean I'll comply. But they won't stop pushing, will they? They'll keep trying to make you marry her or someone like her because that's how your world works. Her voice cracked. And I'll always be the cleaning woman who got in the way. You're not in the way. You're what I choose. Choice isn't always enough. She grabbed her cleaning supplies with shaking hands. I need to go. Amara, wait. I just need time to think. She couldn't look at him because if she did, she'd break. Please. He let her go. She could feel his eyes on her back all the way to the elevator. That night, Amara's phone rang continuously. Minho's name lit up her screen 15 times before she turned it off. She knew she was being a coward, knew she was running from something real because she was terrified of how real it felt, but she couldn't stop the spiral of thoughts. She didn't belong in his world. Eventually, he'd realize that. Eventually, the novelty would wear off and he'd see her clearly. A curvy black woman who cleaned houses for a living, who couldn't navigate high society dinners or business negotiations or the deadly politics of his organization. She was a liability he couldn't afford. Better to end it now, before she fell any deeper. The next morning, she called her supervisor and requested a transfer to a different building, a different client, anywhere but 42A. Are you sure? Her supervisor sounded surprised. Mr. Kang specifically requested you. I'm sure. 2 days later, she was cleaning a lawyer's office in Gangnam when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Ms. Williams, a woman's voice, professional, cold. This is Kim Seo-yeon, Mr. Kang's attorney. We need to discuss a security matter involving you. Amara's blood went cold. What kind of security matter? Not over the phone. Can you meet me at this address in 1 hour? Every instinct screamed trap, but the lawyer's tone left no room for refusal. The address led to a high-rise office building in the heart of Seoul's business district. Kim Seo-yeon was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who looked like she could dismantle someone in court without raising her voice. Thank you for coming, she gestured to a chair. I'll be direct. Park Jae-won's family has started spreading rumors about you. Amara's stomach dropped. What kind of rumors? That you're blackmailing Mr. Kang, that you seduced him to gain access to his finances, that you're a foreign operative sent to compromise him. Seo-yeon's expression was neutral. All lies, of course, but damaging lies. Why are you telling me this? Because Mr. Kang instructed me to offer you protection, legal representation, security detail, relocation if necessary. She slid a folder across the desk. He's also prepared to file a defamation suit against the Park family on your behalf. Amara opened the folder. Page after page of legal documents, all designed to protect her from people she'd never met who hated her for existing. I can't accept this. Why not? Because it proves their point, that I'm using him. Seo-yeon leaned back in her chair. Ms. Williams, I've worked for Mr. Kang for 5 years. I've watched him destroy competitors, crush rivals, and eliminate threats without hesitation. He's brilliant, ruthless, and utterly cold in business. She paused. Until you. For the first time since I've known him, he's making decisions based on emotion instead of strategy. That's exactly the problem. No, Seoyeon's voice softened slightly. That's exactly why you should let him protect you, because men like him don't change for anyone, and the fact that he's changing for you means something. Amara left the office with the folder tucked under her arm and her mind spinning. She walked for hours through Seoul's streets, past markets and cafes and people living normal lives, trying to figure out what the hell she was supposed to do. Her phone buzzed, not Minho, her mother. "Baby girl, you sound tired." Her mother's voice was warm, concerned. "What's wrong?" Amara hadn't meant to tell her everything, but it poured out. Minho, the penthouse, the connection that felt too intense too fast, Jaewon's visit, the rumors, all of it. Her mother listened quietly. When Amara finished, there was a long pause. "You remember when your father died," her mother finally said. "You were 15. I could have shut down, could have let grief swallow me whole. Instead, I chose to keep living, keep loving you, keep moving forward even though it was terrifying." "Mom." "Love is always terrifying, baby. Real love, the kind that changes you, it's the scariest thing in the world because it means giving someone the power to destroy you." Her mother's voice was gentle. "But you can't let fear make your choices for you. Otherwise, you're not really living." Amara wiped tears she hadn't realized were falling. What if I'm not strong enough for his world? What if you are, and you just don't know it yet? That night, Amara stood outside 42A with her heart in her throat. She'd used her old key card, knowing it probably still worked because Minho wouldn't have deactivated it even after she transferred away. The door opened before she could knock. Minho stood there looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes widened when he saw her. "I met with your lawyer," Amara said before she lost her nerve. "She told me about the rumors." "I'm handling it." "I know, that's what scares me." She stepped inside. "You're changing your entire life around me and I don't know if I'm worth that." His jaw clenched. "Don't." "Let me finish." Her voice shook. "I'm terrified of how much I feel for you. I'm terrified of your world, of the danger, of the fact that powerful people hate me just for existing near you. I'm terrified that one day you'll wake up and realize I'm just a cleaning woman who can't navigate your life." "Are you finished?" She nodded. Minho crossed the space between them in 2 strides. "I'm terrified too. I'm terrified of how quickly you became essential. I'm terrified that someone will hurt you to get to me. I'm terrified that you'll decide I'm not worth the risk, and I'll lose the only real thing I've ever had." His hands came up to frame her face. "But I'm more terrified of living without you than I am of any of that." Amara's breath caught. "I don't care that you clean houses. I don't care what my organization thinks. I don't care about political alliances or business deals or anything except you." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "You want to know what you're worth? You're worth burning my entire empire down if that's what it takes to keep you safe." "Minho." "I love you." The words came out rough, unpracticed, like he'd never said them before and wasn't sure he was doing it right. "I've loved you since you stood in my bathroom looking terrified but refusing to run. I'll love you when you're old and gray and still reorganizing my books. I'll love you if you stay and I'll love you if you go, but please, Amara, please don't go." She was crying now, full sobs that shook her whole body. "I love you too. God, I love you so much and it's terrifying." He pulled her against him, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. "Then be terrified with me. We'll figure out the rest." She tilted her face up and he kissed her like he'd been drowning and she was oxygen. Desperate, claiming, reverent. His hands slid into her hair and she pressed closer, needing to feel every inch of him against her. "I'm sorry I ran." She whispered against his lips. "I'm sorry I gave you a reason to." They made it to the bedroom this time, stripping away clothes and fear and doubt. When Minho laid her down on his bed, in his space, he looked at her like she was a miracle he'd stopped believing in. "You're mine," he murmured against her skin, mapping every curve with his hands and mouth. "Say it." "I'm yours." "And I'm yours, completely." What happened next was slower than the first time, more deliberate. He worshipped her body like he was memorizing it, like he was branding himself into her so she'd never forget who she belonged to. And when they finally came together, it felt like coming home. Content fades. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "I need to tell you something," Minho said quietly. Amara tensed. "Okay." "The organization is pushing harder for the marriage alliance. They've given me an ultimatum: marry Jaiwan or step down from leadership." Her heart stopped. "What are you going to do?" "I'm stepping down." She sat up, staring at him. "You can't do that. That's your entire life." "No," he pulled her back down against him. "That was my entire life. You're my life now." "Minho, I can't let you give up everything for me." "You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing this." His hand cupped her face. "I've spent 30 years building power I never wanted, becoming someone I barely recognize, all because I thought control was the same as safety. But you make me want to be someone better, someone who doesn't need an empire to feel whole." "What will you do?" "I have legitimate businesses that can operate independently. Property investments, technology ventures. I'll make the transition slowly, carefully, but I'm done with the organization." He paused. "Unless that changes how you feel about me." "It doesn't change anything." She kissed him softly. "Except maybe I love you even more for being brave enough to choose differently." "Then that's what I'll do." The next 6 months were chaos. Minho began the delicate process of extracting himself from the organization, transferring power, dissolving alliances, making it clear he was out. There were threats. There were attempts to pull him back in. Park Jaiwan's family tried everything from subtle manipulation to outright intimidation. Through it all, Amara stayed. She moved into the penthouse officially, stopped cleaning for elite estates, and started working on her real estate license full-time. Minho supported her completely, celebrating every practice exam she passed, quizzing her with flash cards at night, believing in her success before she believed in it herself. They navigated his world together. The stares when they attended business dinners, the whispers when people saw them together, the assumptions that she was a gold digger, a phase, a mistake he'd regret. Minho handled it all with cold efficiency, cutting people out of his life without hesitation if they disrespected her. Amara learned to stand beside him without flinching, her hand in his, her head high, refusing to be diminished by people who didn't matter. But peace didn't last. One evening, Amara was at a coffee shop studying when 3 men surrounded her table. She looked up, heart racing. "Ms. Williams," the leader smiled without warmth, "we need you to come with us." "I'm not going anywhere." "Mr. Kang has something that belongs to our employer. You're going to help us get it back." Before she could scream, one of them grabbed her arm. She fought, knocking over her coffee, shouting, drawing attention. People stared, but no one moved to help. Then someone's phone rang. The leader answered, listened, and his face went pale. "Stand down," he said quietly to his men. "Now." They released her immediately, backing away like she'd become toxic. The leader met her eyes. "Tell Kang this isn't over." They disappeared into the crowd. Amara's hands shook so badly she could barely dial Minho's number. He answered before the first ring finished. "Where are you?" His voice was sharp with fear. "Cafe Bora in Gangnam. Someone just tried to take me, but they got a phone call and left." "I'm 2 minutes away. Don't move." He was there in 90 seconds, bursting through the cafe door with 4 security personnel behind him. His eyes found her immediately, scanning for injuries, for signs of harm. "I'm okay," she said, but her voice shook. He pulled her against him, his heart hammering against her cheek. "We're leaving, now." In the car, he made a series of calls in rapid Korean, his voice getting progressively colder, harder, more dangerous. "What's happening?" Amara asked when he finally hung up. "The Park family hired people to take you. They were going to use you as leverage to force me back into the organization." His jaw clenched so hard she could see the muscle jumping. "They made a mistake." "What did you do?" "I made a call, reminded certain people that I still have enough connections to make life very difficult for anyone who threatens you." He looked at her, something dark and absolute in his eyes. "They won't come near you again." "Minho." I mean it, Amara. I will destroy anyone who tries to hurt you. Anyone. The vow should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel safer than she'd ever felt in her life. That night, Min-ho didn't let her out of his sight. He held her while she processed the fear, the adrenaline crash, the reality of being targeted for loving the wrong person. Maybe I should go back to Atlanta, she whispered against his chest, just until this settles down. His arms tightened around her. If you want to leave, I'll go with you, but you're not leaving because someone scared you. That's what they want. I don't want to be the reason people target you. You're the reason I have something worth protecting. He tilted her face up. I'm done playing nice with people who think they can control me through fear. Tomorrow, I'm making it official. I'm out of the organization completely, and I'm making it clear that you're under my protection permanently. What does that mean? Min-ho reached into his nightstand and pulled out a small box. Amara's breath caught. It means, he said quietly, opening the box to reveal a ring that caught the light like captured stars, that I'm asking you to marry me. Not for alliance, not for business, because I love you more than I've ever loved anything, and I want the whole world to know you're mine. Tears streamed down her face. We've only known each other for 7 months. I knew I'd marry you after 7 days. That's insane. Say yes anyway. Amara looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the future he was offering. Dangerous, uncertain, terrifying, and more real than anything she'd ever felt. Yes, she whispered. God, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her like he was sealing a vow. Like he was making a promise that nothing and no one could break. The wedding happened fast. Not because they were rushing, but because once Min-ho decided something, he moved with absolute certainty. They married in a small ceremony with Amara's mother flown in from Atlanta, a few of Min-ho's trusted friends, and no one from the organization he'd left behind. Amara wore a dress that made her feel like a queen. Min-ho wore a suit that somehow made him look softer, more human, entirely hers. When he said his vows in Korean and then English, promising to love her, protect her, worship her for the rest of his life, she believed every word. Their first year of marriage was learning each other in new ways. Min-ho's legitimate businesses thrived. Amara passed her real estate exam and started her own firm, specializing in helping immigrant families find homes. They built a life that was theirs, not dictated by fear or obligation or other people's expectations. And when Amara's doctor confirmed what she'd suspected, when she saw 2 pink lines that meant everything was about to change again, she knew exactly how to tell him. She found him in his home office, reviewing contracts. She didn't say anything, just placed the positive pregnancy test on his desk. Min-ho stared at it for 3 full seconds. Then he looked up at her with an expression that made her chest ache. We're having a baby. She nodded, tears already falling. He was out of his chair in an instant, pulling her against him, his hand sliding to her still flat stomach with a reverence that took her breath away. I love you, he whispered. I love you and I love them, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you both know it. Amara smiled through her tears. I know. 9 months later, when Min-ho held his daughter for the first time, when he looked at the tiny life they'd created together with the same fierce protectiveness he'd shown Amara from the beginning, she knew they'd made it. They'd survived danger, doubt, and a world that tried to tear them apart. They'd chosen each other every single day, even when it was terrifying, and now they had forever. Min-ho looked up from their daughter to meet Amara's eyes. Thank you. For what? For walking into the wrong bathroom, for staying when you should have run, for loving me when I didn't know how to be loved. He smiled, soft and real. For making me believe in happy endings. Amara reached out and took his hand. We wrote our own ending. No, Min-ho said, pressing a kiss to their daughter's forehead, then to Amara's lips. We wrote our beginning. Outside their window, Seoul glittered in the darkness, the same city where they'd met, where they'd fought, where they'd chosen each other against all odds. And inside their home, wrapped in love and safety and the promise of tomorrow, their family began.